what is happening in India as well as the opportunity that it presents itself in the near term. In terms of your business, what is it going to mean? You know, we spoke just before the year closed out, and you were confident about being able to add capacity, both from a domestic point of view as well as an export perspective. You know, how are things shaping up in 2024?
Things are shaping up well. As I mentioned that time, I think the India demand, we believe, is going to be in double-digit numbers, possibly for the medium term. This year we see a growth of 14% in demand in India, which is very encouraging. We see a strong focus by the government on infrastructure and the capacity and capex across sectors. So that's very good. Manufacturing is strong. We see the energy transition piece being encouraged very, very strongly by them. So solar, wind, hydro. And all of these, as we discussed the other day, require steel, and therefore a strong demand of steel is emanating. Typically, during this nation-building phase, as we call it, I think India is going to need a lot of steel. So we are adding domestic capacity, JSW, as a part of the national steel vision to reach 300 million ton of capacity. We would like to be at about 50 million ton by 2030. Our plans are more or less on track. Currently, we are commissioning a 5 million ton facility in Vijayanagar in the next few months. And we believe that the next phase of expansion in brownfield locations in India will be our next priority between Dolvi, Vijayanagar and Jharsuguda in the east.
Okay, so you gave us a 2030 outlook, and you also talked about the brownfield expansion. So say by 2025, you know, in terms of the incremental capacity that comes on stream, what could it look like?
So it's, JSW Steel today is about 30 million tons worldwide. Out of that, 28 million plus is in India. We expect to be about 35 million ton by FY25. And the international piece stays at about 2 million odd. And we plan to grow this in 3 locations, as I was mentioning, 5 million tons each. So there'll be an additional facility which will come at Vijayanagar in south of India. And there'll be one which will come in the west of India in Dolvi. And the third one will be in Jharsuguda. So this 15 million will take us to 50. And we do expect that in the next 5 to 6 years, we'll be there with this capacity on ground. We are also planning to add a green steel facility, you know, in view of the various climate challenges which we see and steps being taken by the European Union specifically. We are planning a green steel facility which will also mostly be in the west. We're considering various locations, but mostly in the west.
What's the outlook then in terms of prices and through 2024, given the supply and demand at this point in time, as well as you know, the implications of what happens in China, whether we see a recovery that takes shape or it's going to be slower than expected? What could it do to global steel demand and pricing?
So from a supply-demand perspective, I think as you mentioned, China did have a slowdown because of the property sector. But the rest of the sectors in China have done quite well, surprisingly so. And I think they have taken various initiatives to stabilize the economy. So we are seeing the steel production by and large at a similar level as last year, and the steel consumption at a similar level as last year. But the exports from China have gone up, and that is a concern. And the supply, therefore, into the world has increased. Going forward, I think this year we see, you know, the good things are the inflation is reduced quite a bit. We see interest cuts which have already been indicated by US and by other regions as well. So that would encourage consumption and investment both, and that would require steel. A lot of rebuilding of countries and rebuilding of regions will happen. So we feel on a supply demand in the medium term it should be good. On the shorter term, I think we need to be cautious in India because India is growing. We should be wary of any unfair trade which comes into India at low prices, which would hurt us.
Well, that I think the government is always watchful for, and you know, mechanisms are in place to impose duties as and when the government believes there to be a case. Is there a case at this point in time to be made?
There is a case growing because I think today India is a net importer in this year of steel, which is not a good thing. And what is worrisome is that some of the cheap imports are coming into India at prices which are predatory, and that is our concern. If it's fair trade, we are good to go. If it's prices which are below at times their domestic prices or at a loss, then it's a concern.
Have you taken this up with the government recently?
Yeah, we are in discussion with the government in terms of
Any
steps
specific
which
products?
should be taken. It is actually across various product lines, but mostly in the flat steel space.
Okay, and what is the, when you talk about predatory pricing, I mean, how predatory is it?
I think without going into numbers, over the last 3-4 months, it has been a little challenging. But I think of the last few weeks, Chinese prices have gone up. Maybe international prices has gone up as well. So Chinese prices have moved up by $40 or so. The prices are still a little on the lower side, and we understand that Chinese steel companies are probably at a loss or at a marginal cost at this level. So there is a case for us to take up with them appropriately.